The Ice Age. A forgotten epoch, ruled not by man, but by monsters. A brutal Colosseum, where thrones were claimed only by terrible, absolute power.
This is the story of a ruler whose code was written in silence and executed in blood.
Now, let the chronicle of this lost ruler begin. In this frozen dominion, power was a thing shouted, not whispered. It was the roar of the short-faced bear. A tyrant whose shadow declared dominion over any kill it chose. It was the thunder of the great herds, the mammoths.
Mobile fortresses of fur and ivory that reshaped the earth with every migration.
Ours was the howl of the dire wolf, a legion bound by blood. An occupying army that measured its strength in numbers, a red tide that washed over the weak. This was a land of giants, an era of overt, deafening strength. The law of this kingdom was simple. What could be seen could be broken.
What could be heard could be intimidated.
The war for survival was a war of percussion, of bone-shattering charges and earth-shaking roars. But this very tyranny of noise created a vacuum. In a world defined by the colossal, by the obvious display of force, true mastery finds another path. While the giants clashed in the open, a different philosophy was being perfected in the shadows. A new power was rising, one that did not need to roar to be heard, nor shatter the earth to prove its point.
It was a power that understood a fundamental truth that tyrants had forgotten.
The loudest warrior is often the first to fall. A much quieter, patient, and calculated domination, waiting for its moment. A rule built not on crushing force, but on the terrifying precision of the unseen. This new contender was Smilodon.
We call it the Saber-Tooth, but in this lost kingdom, it was known only as the Assassin.
It was a dynasty of one, a ruler that rejected the thunder of its rivals. The Assassin was a creature forged not for the open battlefield, but for the shadows that crawl between.
Its very anatomy was a testament to a different, colder philosophy. It did not possess the endurance of the wolf pack, nor the sheer, tyrannical mass of the bear. It was built for something far more precise. Its body was a coiled spring of devastating power, low to the ground, with a thickly muscled neck and profound, heavy forelimbs.
This was not the physique of a runner. It was the build of a wrestler, a grappler. The Assassin's code was not built on the chase, which it saw as a wasteful, noisy admission of failure. Its philosophy was rooted in the inevitable. It would not pursue its destiny. It would ambush it. And then there were the weapons. Those terrible, curved blades of ivory.
They were not for show. They were not the all-purpose tools of a lesser predator. They were specialized keys, designed for a single, fatal lock.
They were the punctuation to a sentence written in silence.
To wield such weapons required a new doctrine of warfare.
They were too long to be used in a panicked skirmish, too fragile to be smashed against bone. They demanded control. They demanded proximity.
They demanded that the victim be held fast, a prisoner awaiting the executioner's blade.
This was the core of the assassin's code, an unnerving, absolute patience. While the wolf pack announced its arrival with howls that chilled the air, the assassin practiced silence.
While the tyrant bear lumbered across the steppe, broadcasting its dominion, the assassin mastered the art of non-existence.
It became the tall grass. It became the shadow at the edge of the herd. It became the sudden, unnerving stillness in a world of constant motion. Its dominion was not the wide, open plain, but the in-between.
The ravines, the thickets, the hunting trails worn by its prey.
It studied, it learned, it waited. It understood the movements of the giants, not to challenge them, but to avoid them, to let their noise cover its own silent advance. This was not cowardice, it was strategy. The wolf pack saw strength in numbers. The tyrant saw strength in mass.
The assassin saw strength in the absolute, terrifying advantage of the first and only strike. It was a ruler of moments, a master of the calculated instant, where shadow and steel became one.
The assassin's code was not born in a vacuum. In this land of monsters, the targets were themselves titans. They were the ancient bison, behemoths with horns spanning 6 feet. They were the giant ground sloths, rising on their hind legs like walking towers, their hides thick with embedded bone, their claws like hooked scythes. Even a juvenile mammoth, separated from its herd, was a fortress of muscle and rage. This was the true war. The assassin's conflict was not with the roaring tyrant or the howling pack. Its arch nemesis was the very life it hunted. A wolf pack could afford a failed hunt. They would simply move on, their strength found in their collective endurance. The assassin could not.
A single mistake, a moment of impatience, a badly calculated angle of attack would not just mean a lost meal.
It would mean a shattered tusk, a gored flank, or a crushed spine.
For the assassin,
Every hunt was a war of absolute stakes. Failure meant death or obsolescence. Therefore, the code was everything. Patience was not a virtue. It was the only viable weapon. The conflict began long before the strike. It began with the wind, with the sun, with the scent of
The assassin would watch, sometimes for days, a ghost at the feast.
It watched the herd's rhythms, the sentinels, the subtle limp of an elder, the careless wandering of the young. It was not looking for the weakest. It was looking for the right target, the one who fate would intersect with its own calculated ambush. This was the war of nerves.
The assassin would begin its approach, a shadow detaching itself from other shadows.
Every step was a calculation. It moved, not like an animal, but like water.
Flowing into the low points of the earth, using every blade of tall grass, every scrub of brush as a new veil. The tension was not in the chase, but in the agonizing, slow infiltration.
Imagine the beast, muscles coiled, belly to the frozen earth, advancing inch by agonizing inch, toward an animal that could crush it without a thought.
The assassin is now inside the Titan's personal space, a place of certain death, yet it remains unseen, unheard.
It waits.